Hi, everyone, and welcome to Off the Record, the sports podcast of breaking news, hard opinion, and a little bit of gibber. I'm Andrew Webster from The Australian, and I'm joined by my partner in journalistic crime, Phil Rothfield from the Daily and Sunday Telegraphs and Code Sport. G'day, Buzz.
Hello, Webby. I'm not in a terrific mood.
Why not?
Because you know why.
Please enlighten the listeners.
We're in a little cafe next door 20 minutes ago.
Latteria, it's my favourite little haunt. They
and
know
I
who
was
I am.
mistaken as your father. This lovely lady said, "Oh, Andrew, you've got Dad here today."
You know,
Not happy.
Quite possibly.
I do not look anything like you or old enough to be your father.
Now, the thing is, it's not the first time this has happened.
I know.
Because yourself and I and Todd Greenberg were at the theatre in London, as you do.
We were watching Simply the Best.
Well, yeah, the Tina Turner,
East End.
the West End.
West End.
East
Close.
Gee, wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah.
And after
Wrong side of the tube station.
After the show, which was fantastic, by the way, we were at the front and we wanted a photo, and Todd handed his phone to one of a woman.
Delightful lady.
She was a delightful lady, and she took the phone. She said, "It's so lovely to see two sons taking their father to the theatre." And Buzz was mortified.
Oh, it's not
Anyway,
good, Webby.
good
I
start.
do not look that old.
Good start. Yes, you do.
What are we gibbering about?
Coming up on the show today, we've got some breaking news on the bunker. We're going to rip into the Western Bears and their decision to target Brad Arthur as coach. And Buzz is going to lift the lid on the day Greg Inglis's wife flipped him the bird. Very
More
good.
stories.
Exactly. All right, let's get into it. Champs and Chumps, Buzz. Who's your champ of the week?
My champ is Andrew Joey John's eighth immortal. I thought his takedown of the NRL over this outrageous high tackle crackdown was absolutely outstanding television, and I don't normally give Channel 9 a rap, but his appearance on the Sunday Footy show was just magnificent. He spoke for the people. He spoke for just about everyone across the game that enough is enough. It was embarrassing. It was a farce. All those words. I didn't know Joey could get those words. It was brilliant.
It's from the heart.
Isn't it incredible when it's from the heart?
It was
how well he delivered.
100%. And look, I broke the story later that day on the Australian website about him putting the microphone down the last 23 minutes of the Tigers Cronulla game, because he was just disgusted with that late sin bin. And look, Joey's got his critics. I know people sort of are critical of him because he wears his heart on his sleeve during Origin.
I bagged him 2 weeks ago here.
And well, you do like to bag people.
Well.
I'm kidding, Buzz. But the thing that I love about it is, and I've known Joey since the 90s, and he's just so authentic in everything he does. And he is a genuine lover of the game. He's a genuine lover of the Knights, New South Wales, Origin, and Australia, and international football. And I think people misread him sometimes. He's unfiltered, and he is who he is. He's a tremendous guy, Joey, and he loves the game. He genuinely loves the game. And what you saw there on the Sunday Footy show, what you saw at that game between Cronulla and the Tigers, is Andrew Johns and his love of the game.
Sure.
Okay.
I thought it was particularly brave as well, because I can say there are nervous television executives at Channel 9 and DAZN or Foxtel or whatever we're supposed to call it these days, who are about to go into crucial negotiations with the NRL for the next television deal. And there's a feeling that we should hashtag NRL talk the game up to favour their chances, Webby, of, retaining the rights. I don't know if there's been instructions at these camps to tone it down and speak the game up, but Joey certainly didn't get the email.
No, that's right, and he just calls it as it is. So calls it as he is as well. Okay, my champ. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
The North Sydney Bears are out of hibernation. So I've been critical of a Western Australia franchise, and then I had a long chat a few days ago, Buzz, to my great mate James Bracey. Again,
Have you
from Channel.
backflipped?
No.
You have.
No, I haven't. Let me finish.
You backflipped.
I'm still not big on a Perth team, but I am very, very happy that the Bears are back. The other person I've been thinking about this week is the late, great Mike Gibson. He was a massive North Sydney fan and was very much it's an extension of his personality. They were shafted out of the big league. I actually this morning I saw a guy running around in a Bears jumper.
But they weren't shafted, they were broke.
Yeah, but they got shafted in the Northern Eagles partnership.
Yeah, they did, but they were broke. They had when they went to the table to negotiate a merger, they had no chips.
Oh no, but that's how they fell apart.
Yeah,
that's how they got kicked out.
I feel good that my coaching 2 weeks ago has come to fruition, and you're on board.
You narcissist. It's not always about you. Can I just say this? I always had a soft spot for the Bears as a young fan. My favourite player was Greg Florimo. He never, ever, ever played a bad game, Flo.
I saw him last night in the green room and he still looks fit enough to play centre 3/4.
What about Billy Moore?
Billy Moore looks terrific as well. I tell you who one of my favourite players was, and he was so ahead of his time because he was an athlete 30 years ago like today's Mark Graham.
That's right. He was a good player, wasn't he?
Goodness, he was a good player.
He was a monster too, wasn't he?
Mate, he was like Sonny Bill Williams back then, that fit. Yeah. That physique.
A bit like you and I. Chump of the week. Who you got?
I'm going off the footpath here with the EPL, English Premier League.
You're bagging the EPL?
Yes. Well, there's a month to go in the season, and there was absolutely no interest. Liverpool have been crowned the champions. The bottom 3 clubs, Ipswich Town, Leicester City and Southampton, are relegated. They're that far below the next West Ham. It's all over.
So what are you unhappy about?
I'm saying
what are you suggesting?
Well, the NFL have finals and a Super Bowl.
The
NBA, the NRL. Do you know the Olympics have semis and finals?
I know, I've been to them.
And I know it's tradition. And I know I've offended rugby people, and I'm now going to offend the soccer types.
Are we just going to ostracise every single sport outside of rugby league? No. And I get dragged into it by association. All the soccer fans out there.
Rugby league about the head high tackles.
I know.
Webby, people have to change with it's like origin rules that were made in 1980.
But Buzz, the EPL often goes down to the last weekend. A lot of times,
and often doesn't.
A lot of times it's a race to the finish. What do you want? Well, that's what
we need. We
need the McIntyre system applied to the EPL. Bring
Sorry
in a top 8.
for having an opinion, Andrew.
Not having a crack. But anyway, just make it very clear that's Buzz's opinion. I'm only just getting back on side with the rugby union fans. I don't want to piss off the soccer fans, although I probably will. You know who my chump is?
Who?
Me.
Why?
I'm giving myself an uppercut.
Well, you should have done that with your son.
Last week while I was rapping Ostra Piastri, I said that Jack Brabham, Alan Jones and Mark Webber are Australians who had previously won Formula One world titles. Mark Webber did not.
Oh, well, there you go.
So Jack Brabham won it 3 times, 59, 60 and 66. Alan Jones, the race car driver, not the controversial broadcaster, he won in 1980. Webster, you hack, you dog, you are my chump of the week.
That's very funny. That's nearly as bad as me calling West End East End. But anyway, Gibber.
Going to the theatre on the East End, London's East End.
Yes.
You.
Yeah, anyway.
Gibber.
It's not very famous, the West End.
No, not at all. Not at all. Have you ever been to other...
No.
Are you a theatre guy?
No.
No, neither am I.
Never.
Right, well, Buzz, you've got a really big breaking story in terms of the bunker. It's been the major issue in the game, not just last weekend, but over the last month. There's just been Looney Tunes in rugby league land in terms of the adjudicating, particularly the video ref. What do you got for me, Buzz?
Yeah, Webby, I think it's a story all rugby league fans will be happy with. The NRL are going to take steps at the end of the season. Look, they're not going to put a bomb under the bunker, but what they are going to do is hire 3 or 4 full-time specialists. They won't be current referees. They'll be bunker specialists to do nothing but adjudicate on games from Everleigh. The studio's there, high-definition screens, slow-mo the lot to try and improve what we've seen this year. What sort of person will be in there? They'll be ex-referees. People like Matt Checken and Ben Cummins were great referees. When they retired, they were lost to the game. What will happen now is they'll encourage people like those 2 I just mentioned at the back end of their careers to take these jobs on. They'll get more training. They'll be brought up to speed with, how the technology works and all those sorts of things.
And more consistency, yeah?
There will be more consistency, Webby, which is really, really important and brings down the number of people operating. One of the problems I've had with the bunker, and current referees do it, you can have a guy who has a game on a Saturday, he has a shocker, his confidence shattered, he doesn't sleep at night, then he's got to get into Everleigh Studios the next day and adjudicate on a game.
Crazy.
It really is.
For a professional code like the NRL, which is constantly telling us how much money they've got, like it seems very amateurish. And Buzz, didn't they say at the start of the year there was going to be a group of, dedicated bunker officials to bring consistency back in the game? And whether it's happened or not, it's the outcome hasn't been there, has it? Because it hasn't been as messy as it has been in the last month.
Yeah, and from what I'm told, Webby, is referees don't particularly like working in the bunker. They do want to be out in the field, but at the back end of their careers, when they are looking, they've got to take on some sort of job, and there are a couple there getting towards the back end who will be approached as part of this operation to take on the role. And anything the NRL do, they've got to be proactive. They've got a major, loss of confidence from fans, all stakeholders. And, yeah, I like it.
Works 4-day weeks. It's sort of
4 days sounds like one of yours.
How dare you?
It does.
I do 4 days in one.
Do you? But what?
You know what? But this is you make a really good point, Buzz. Like blokes like Checken and Cummins, like that's knowledge and experience that that's very hard to find in officiating.
Yes.
Like those guys have been involved in some of the biggest games, and everyone talk about Cummins and the 6 to go. Like that was referees make mistakes, but to have that level of experience in the bunker and that consistency from week to week, that is exactly what the game is crying out for. But you cannot have the situation like we had at the weekend of where some players are staying on the field for kneeing other players in the head and not,
How bad was that?
Terrible. Whereas, and then Pole in the Tigers game was terrible.
Mate, I said on radio it wouldn't have knocked me out, Pole. He wouldn't have.
I'd pay him to do it.
Yeah, would you?
But you're right though. But that was a shocker, wasn't it?
Oh, mate, it was a terrible incident that he not only kneed him with his right knee, he come back with his left. He stayed on the football field, not even sin bin. I would have sent him off. I guarantee you, if he'd gone before Jim Comans in the wild old days, he would have got 6 weeks. He got 2.
What do you think of the way Abdo got on the front foot and did the PR circuit on Monday?
Oh, I thought he did okay. I won't wear the fact he's saying it's not a crackdown.
It's no policy change. Well, something's changed.
Well, they're up 140% sin bins. People on report are up 75%. Of course it's a crackdown. They've overcorrected themselves from a problem they had in one round when they missed a few.
That's right.
They've overcorrected.
And as a consequence, we're now going into another magic round shrouded in uncertainty.
Yeah, and I forget who said, I think Joey said it. Working class people, I mention on this show all the time, save for weeks and weeks and weeks for their flights, accommodation, food, ground entry. They get up there and they're watching, 13 on 2.
I agree.
I think they'll drop off this week.
Yeah, I think they will. But then they open themselves up to being inconsistent again. Like if it's look, to be honest, they can't win in many respects. They can't. But there has to be. There's no way that they can have some of the incidents. Like
18 bins.
Oh, exactly, crazy. But I can't believe. Like I would have sent Curran from the field in that Bulldogs Broncos game. I thought that was terrible. The shoulder charge on Payne Haas. How he can get 10 in the bin and Pole can get the same punishment from a different game is like that's a game that's at two polar ends of the spectrum.
Don't blame the refs. They got a backstop there. It's the bunker.
I'd hate to be a ref. You know what I reckon?
The game's so fast.
Well, this is what I reckon. The game again, and I also don't blame. What they also, and I was on SEN on Saturday and we had Craig Bellamy on and I asked him this question and I said, Bellyache, it must be extremely difficult for a player and a coach these days. The game's gotten immeasurably quicker in the last 4 or 5 years because of the 6 to go rule. The players have never been quicker. They've never been stronger. They've never been more agile. And if you're trying to, and they're all coming together so much quicker, it's so hard for them not to hit each other high. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's different to today's gone past.
It needs more common sense, and I think this will go a long way to being achieved with full-time specialists in there.
Remember, you heard it here first.
Absolutely, Weber.
Unless, of course, it doesn't happen. Okay, let's get to the news of the week. And there's a bit going on. Let's get to the Western Bears, who Buzz broke on this program last week. Had agreed in principle to be admitted into the NRL from 2027. The thing that surprised everybody is that the NRL have just gone straight after former NRL coach Brad Arthur. He's not out of work. He's at Leeds, but he's not obviously in the NRL.
Yeah, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. He's just appointed as head coach.
There was a strange. It's strange to have him earmarked already as the coach.
Andrew, I ask you, where is the due diligence? Who made the appointment? Who decided Brad Arthur is to coach this franchise? Did they ring Craig Bellamy? Did they make a call to Wayne Bennett? Did they check out Trent Robinson, who people say, who knows?
Needs a change.
Did they ring Cleary?
Might need a change.
Did they?
No, I don't think they did.
They just appointed Brad Arthur, who's never won a comp at Para. And I'm not bagging Brad Arthur one little bit. I just want to know if they checked what else was around for other options. Did the Bears get a say? The Bears had no idea. Absolutely no idea.
It seems like nobody had any idea.
But who made the appointment?
Well, the NRL.
Was it Peter Volandis? Was it Andrew Abdo? Was it the Commission?
I don't know, Buzz.
But for such a significant appointment, you need a magnet for players. You need top echelon coaching. You do.
I find it bizarre that they've identified the coach before they went and got the board, the CEO, the recruitment manager. I would have thought they were just as important before you worked out who your coach was. Don't you reckon? But I mean, how many players is Brad Arthur going to drag there?
I don't know. I thought he might have got Dylan Brown.
Sorry?
But I thought he might have got Dylan Brown, but he's gone to Newcastle.
Do you remember how hard it was for Bennett, the most successful coach
got knockbacks all
of the
time.
modern era, to build that Dolphins squad? So what's Brad Arthur going to do?
But Wayne being the face of that club was a significant reason behind their success, an amazing success in being so competitive so soon. And I just want to know why other people weren't even considered. Yeah, it's not too much.
I agree. It's going to be interesting how it all, like who they get. I know that I've read reports that they've identified Payne Haas to go over there. I can't see him leaving Brisbane. Depends on the money, obviously, but
Payne Haas will be the first $1.5 million front rower ever.
The way he's going,
he'll get halfback money.
Have you ever seen a prop like
Best
him?
Player in the game, on form this year. So normally it's Cleary or Ponga, but on form this year, Payne Haas is the number one player in rugby league.
When was the last time a prop won the Dally M, if at all? Never.
Can't recall one.
I can't remember a forward. Gavin Miller won it once, didn't he?
Gavin Miller won a couple.
Very good. Okay.
What's next, Webby?
Dragons coach Shane Flanagan has dropped halfback Lachlan Ilias for the match against the West Tigers. The young gun Lycan King Tonga. Hopefully I haven't pronounced that incorrectly.
Near enough.
He's coming in his place. There's a lot of raps on that kid. I know the Knights are after him, and they've just extended him at the Dragons. What do you think, Buzz, of Ilias getting the chop for the Anzac Day massacre?
Yeah, well, Shane Flanagan had that bad press conference after about round 3 or 4, and he basically dumped on Lachie Ilias there, didn't he? So he's given him another 3 to 4 weeks. Even his manager, Braithen Astor, conceded on NRL 360 a few weeks back that, look, he was playing for his spot. And look, I can understand a change had to be made around the halves because their season's slipping away on them. The only thing I don't like is that St George put 17 players onto the park on Anzac Day, and I reckon 14 or 15 of them were very, very ordinary, and Lachie had a lot of mates. And to pick out the half, is it tough? Yeah, it is, but I can also understand it because they're going nowhere with him playing there.
No, but hang on. Before this game, they'd won back-to-back games. I think it's unfair. I thought it was a little bit earlier. I think the drama for Shane Flanagan, is that his son's in the team, and also when the halves are not going great. I think Kyle's playing okay, but I'm a Dragons fan, Buzz, and my phone lit up with text messages about Kyle Flanagan, not Lachlan Ilias, on Anzac Day.
You're suggesting nepotism?
Well, no, just suggesting that he wasn't playing particularly well, and this is going to be the drama for Shane Flanagan while ever he's coaching his son in that team, is that there's going to be claims of favouritism. I'm not saying that's the case. But Kyle's a solid player, but he's not brilliant.
I said before, unless you're Johnny Lang and Martin Lang and Ivan Cleary and Nathan Cleary, my goodness, it's hard to coach your son. Bozo had it at Manly with Scott and Brett, and claims of nepotism, picking them over the top, more players who probably deserve the jersey a bit more. Look, I don't want to go into the Flanagan situation. I think Kyle's defence has kept him in the side more than Lachie, who's been found out on the edge a couple of times. Yeah, but I understand what you're talking about. There's certainly perception of,
Why don't you want to talk about it? Because you were close to Flano.
No, I'm confirming there is a perception there because I think Kyle does not deserve to be dropped at this stage. However, if things do not pick up, he will be under massive pressure to stay in the side. They do not have a lot of better options, though.
No, that's it. But as I said, that's the problem that is going to be at that club while ever you have a father coaching his son. Poor Drags. It's hard to watch the other night.
Oh, dreadful Anzac Day. Dreadful.
Terrible.
2 years in a row.
So glad we brought it up. All right. Are we going to talk very briefly? We don't want to get too much into the Lachlan Galvin situation, but can I just say this? After what happened at Leichhardt on Sunday, there was only one way that he could silence the boos, and that was to play the house down, which he did. And I hope he hasn't signed with Parramatta, because if he keeps playing like that, he'll just keep adding noughts to the end of his next deal. God, I hope it could work out. Is there any way, Buzz, that they could just work it out, that he could stay?
He didn't look like a bloke suing the footy club, did he? He didn't look like a bloke.
He didn't look like a bloke unhappy with the coach.
I'd abandon all legal proceedings right now. They're filling the pockets of guys who charge $3,000-4,000 an hour. I'm talking barristers, SCs. Call the jam off. He was terrific the other day. He had a smile back on his face, set up the first try, did high fives, jumped on players up. Just beautiful. And it's a credit to the kid that he's withstood all this pressure, tumultuous times in Tiger Town, and good on him.
Good on you, Lachlan. Our final... Oh, sorry, we keeping you from something?
No. I'd just like to keep you rolling on, Webby.
Hey,
roll.
I'm the host. I'm the host, unless you want to do it.
Host with the most, Andrew Webster.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the North Sydney Bears,
Yes.
Les Kiss, former Bears winger, is the next Wallabies coach.
I'm a little bit ignorant, as many listeners would be aware, on my rugby union topics. I don't know a lot about Les Kiss. Remember him as a good fella when he played as a winger on the old concrete pit at Bear Park, North Sydney Oval, and he was he wasn't so much a speedster. He's a good defensive winger. I remember. It's funny, wingers and coaches. Wayne Bennett, Johnny King was a great. Johnny King was a coach Western Division.
There you go.
Wayne played for Australia, and now Les Kiss.
There you go. So
I don't know much about him.
So it's sort of like been speculated for a while. There was others in the mix, including Michael Checker, but I mean, Les Kiss is the coach of the Queensland Reds. He's been the front runner for the job for some time to take over from Joe Schmid, who will vacate the job at the end of the year. But it's an interesting one in the sense that he had a rugby league career, obviously, then tried. I think he was at the Northern Eagles as an assistant coach, and then went and found his way in rugby union all around the world, including the Reds this year, and now he's going to coach the Wallabies in the lead up to the 27 World Cup. It's a good appointment. It's a good story. Yeah,
I'd love to learn a bit more about him, and I'm sure there'll be some good media and television interviews and docos and all that.
We should get him in here.
Well, why don't we put in a request?
I think I will.
Why don't you?
Oh, well, I think you should. You're rugby's friend. You should.
No, I'm not. But it's a huge job. It's a huge job because rugby, although the money's coming in, have still got such a long way to go, and we need a healthy, strong Wallaby outfit.
Well, when the Wallabies are going well, Australian rugby's going well. So
yes,
let's get it going.
That's a big scoop. When the Wallabies are going well, Australian rugby. Thanks for that. And when they're going bad, they're going bad.
No, but you need
outrageous.
You need your national team going well.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's very, very important to the Australian rugby brand.
Sorry for picking up where you needed to be.
I'm going to tell you Let's get to our very popular section, War Stories, where Buzz basically talks about his favourite subject, himself.
You're a fool, really.
Tell us now. You gave us a little taste. A little morsel last week when you were talking about Greg Inglis.
I've got some happy war stories that I am going to tell, but you seem to like the ones where I'm involved in combat. And it's not a particularly memorable day of my career. I used to get on okay with GI, but at Melbourne Storm, when they broke the salary cap, I took a picture of a boat in his car park, which turned out was gifted to him. And we plastered all over the back page of the Telegraph under my byline. And he gave me life, basically. And that was it, for doing my job, exposing the rorts along with, the Harvey Norman bloody cards and 2 contracts. It was
the red manila folder.
Yes.
The red manila folder that was never supposed to be anywhere on site because it had the secret contracts. But no. The Storm were hard done by, pal.
Yeah. Anyway, I kept my 10 metres with him at all times after that and, didn't want to make a scene. But anyway, he was getting married on the Sunshine Coast about 6 or 7 years later. And it was a big story, GI settling down. And so I rang Shane Richardson, who was at South. And I said, mate, can you check with GI if I can cover his wedding? And he said, yeah, mate, no problems. Richo rings me back and said, yeah, mate, sweet. Gave me the name of the resort. So on a Sunday morning, I flew to the Sunshine Coast, hired a car, picked up a photographer, turned up at the wedding at the resort. Mingled with guests, got the camera ready. GI sees me and gives me the death stare and tells me I'm not welcome. I said, Richo told me you cleared it. He said, you are not welcome. Go. And I said, mate, I've come all the way from Sydney. He said, go. And this was no time to negotiate.
So can I have some of the cake? No?
So I then made an executive decision that I'd flown all this way, 1,000 airfares, a bit of accommodation, a hire car, fill the tank up. It was an expensive assignment. I thought, I cannot go back to Sydney empty-handed. Grabbed the photographer, found some bushes and hid behind the bushes.
Oh, you did the old bush trick.
Yeah, with telescopic lenses. And we got the money photo. We got a picture of GI and his lovely wife.
From the bushes?
Yeah, from the bushes. That's
great.
That's old school paparazzi.
That's old school tabloid.
But anyway, it gets worse.
Journalism.
I said to him, look, we should try and find out where the official photo is and, get that. So next thing I know, GI and his bride were sitting out the back of a golf cart which was taking them to the beach to get their official photos. And they see us behind the bushes. I will never forget his lovely wife going like this to me, giving me the bird.
Flipping you the finger. Uh-oh.
As she drove
What
past.
did you do?
I said, look, I've had enough of this assignment.
Let's go to the
I'm
bar.
going home. We've got our picture. And anyway, I punched out a colourful 300, 400 words and, page one exclusive, GI's wedding bliss and whatever they sort of new idea journalism.
My God. And how are you with him now?
It's funny, as I said, I kept my 10 metres wherever, there was a chance we were going to bump. And then we were on a plane to Las Vegas last year. He was sitting in the row behind me. I thought, oh, Jesus, this is awkward. But look, I got up to put my bag in the overhead locker and I said, how you going, Buzz? And we shook hands and so nothing had ever happened.
He's a good man, GI. He's evolved.
One of the greatest players I've ever seen lace a boot, Webby.
Absolutely.
And I can't vouch for him as a person because I really don't know him.
I remember doing a piece on him for Inside Sport when he was a kid. He's and he was very quiet. He actually grew up in a town called Maxville,
yes,
which is just south of where I grew
I
up
think
in a
that's
town
where
called,
the boat is now, Andrew.
called Urunga. Where, Maxville?
I think the boat's retired to Maxville.
Well, he's as I said, he grew up near where I grew up.
I thought it was Queensland.
Very funny, but he Maxville's a very, very strong. Apart from the home of the late Philip Hughes, but rugby league wise, it was always a strong nursery. The Donovan brothers used to play for Maxville. A lot of really strong Indigenous players used to come out of that area. So, if people forget, from a young age, he went away to Melbourne, and if he'd been anywhere else, it would have been tough out if he wasn't under Craig Bellamy's sort of wing. But he's had his ups and downs, obviously with various issues. But like a lot of these players, Buzz, they eventually grow and mature into great.
Mate.
You know what I love? I love. I look at Carney and Mitchell Pearce.
Oh, wow.
Both off the grog, both absolute role models.
Mate.
They were both...
Toddy Carney, Las Vegas, had the best chat to him.
Right.
Best chat to him. And I've written about all his scandals. He was such an impressive dude over there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how these guys...
Todd Carney on the loose in Vegas 10 years ago would have been a friggin' nightmare. I want to talk about Maxville. Not important, but they've built that bloody freeway around it now. And I loved that drive to Queensland, but I used to love winding through Maxville.
I didn't.
Didn't you? Why?
No, because it was like, as I
Mate,
said...
the big servo there? There is not a better ham and cheese toasty in the country.
Have you been there around holiday time? It'd take you an hour to get through there. Just like it was an hour to get through Campsie.
Sorry for finding it a picturesque stopover.
Sorry for having family in Urunga and wanting to get there a bit quicker than...
Right, okay.
Well, you have your little...
Your turn for war story. I'm going to tell a happy war story next time.
Well, do you want a war story from me when, next week?
Yes, unless you want one now. Have you got one? How are we going for time?
No, let's do it next week.
Right, your turn.
My turn's next week, right?
Okay.
Let's think of all the very few people I've fallen out with in this job.
Oh, please.
I'm only 2 hours. Fearless forecast, Buzz.
You go first because I haven't thought of one. You better let me think of one.
Good, nice and professional preparation. Look, I'm not going to tip a multi this week. I'm not.
Why?
Because I don't want to. Because
that's a great forecast.
I'm off the punt.
Well, what are you going to tip?
But this is what I'm going to tip. If you're going to Magic Round, there is only one place you have to be, and that is the car park at the Caxton Hotel on a Saturday afternoon. That is where you will see you will be touched in a deep and profound way, because I remember being there last year, and it is an experience in itself. Before you get to the footy, make sure you go to the Caxton Hotel car park and just soak up the atmosphere, or the Forex.
Wow.
Either or. There's my forecast.
Yeah, I love Magic Round. And I tell you what I'm going to forecast. We're going to see 8 games of great footy that the NRL have woken up to themselves. They're going to back off. I think the players will get the message too. And we're going to be celebrating a great weekend of footy, Webby. And I'll be there. I'm staying on the beautiful Gold Coast. I'm going to beach walk. I'm going to swim, then drive up and consume some beautiful rugby league.
Thank you for painting that picture.
Well, see, that's what podcasts are about.
Don't raise your voice at me.
People like colour. They want to go behind the scenes.
Of what? Of you and your dicky danglers getting out in the water? What?
We're getting close to your 50th.
Yeah, that's not yet.
Yeah, we're getting
It's
close.
about 10. I know, I'm feeling it.
Icebergs.
Let's not tell everyone where my 50th birthday party is, all right? We don't want dribblers coming in off the street.
Bring a cake in next week.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I like chocolate.
5-0, the great Webby.
Very good. Righto.
Maitland's finest.
Oh, would you stop? Shut up. I'm sick of you already.
Close us down. Where's the code offer?
Now, listen, hold on. Let me get organised here. We have a special offer for listeners of Off the Record. You can get an annual subscription to Australia's best sports website. That's codesports.com.au for just $49. That's a bargain, featuring Australia's best sports journalism. The Code Sports app is essential for every fan. So head to codesports.com.au/OTR to get your special discount on your annual Code subscription. Download it now. And you can also follow, subscribe, and engage with us on socials. You can find us at Off the Record Podcast on Instagram, and please subscribe to us on YouTube at Off the Record Podcast. And that's it, Buzz. Thank you for another great week.
Been outstanding, Webby. Outstanding.
And we've got a podcast with a very special guest.
Yes.
Matthew Johns.
Wow.
That comes out in a couple of days. Stay tuned. Thanks, guys.